Bless up, everyone. Father Scott here. Monday Meditations. Enough respect to you all. It's Tuesday. It's roughly 4:44 p.m. Eastern Time. So, time for another episode of Monday Meditations. Yes, you heard that right. It is Monday Meditations happening on a Tuesday. I did try to broadcast yesterday, but was having a lot of technical difficulties. So hopefully things are better today. Please feel free to comment. Let me know how the stream is coming through. Let me know the quality. Hopefully everything's back and better. But if this is your first time tuning in, this normally happens every Monday. And how it works, Monday morning I usually post a short video with the topic of discussion. And these topics are really just meant to get you to think a little bit deeper about things, to expand your consciousness, hopefully help you to become the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And then we come back here, Facebook Live, 4:44 p.m. Eastern Time, roughly, and we discuss that topic in more detail. So, give thanks everyone for your support. Greetings, Mike. Enough respect. Good to see you on, man. Hope everyone is feeling happy, feeling healthy. Good to see everyone this weekend. If you came out to the show with Skill and Jaw, Gary Dredd, Rick Hayes, great vibes. Good to catch everyone. Lots of stuff coming up in April, so make sure you do check the calendar to see all the spots we're going to be at every weekend in April. So come through, come hold the vibes. Give thanks. Mike says, sounds good so far, brother. Give thanks, Mike. Awesome. So, yeah, I tried to broadcast yesterday from my grandma's house, and it was just having lots of difficulty. I mean, my phone shut off right in the middle of the broadcast. I tried to come back on and start it over again, and it was even worse. Quality of connection was even worse. So I tried to push it back to the evening and do it then, and wasn't able to connect. It just wasn't happening. So we're here today on a Tuesday, and today we're going to talk about wires. I meant to talk about wires yesterday, and since then I've actually learned even some more even cooler stuff. So everything works as it should, and give thanks for tuning in today. Feel free to share the video. Invite your friends along. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I will address them as they come through. Excuse me. And yeah, so today let's talk about wires. So wires, like I mentioned, wires may seem at first thought pretty insignificant. Right? They're kind of out of sight, out of mind in most cases. You don't really have much, eyesight on them. You don't encounter them very often just in your general day-to-day life, maybe. So it might not seem like such a big deal. Yet, as I'm sitting here looking around in my studio, I'm looking at USB cables and headphone cables and instrument guitar cables, XLR microphone cables. So maybe in some instances you deal with wire all the time. Actually, most of us have some interaction with wires to some degree every single day. They are responsible for providing electricity to all of our houses. Every time you hit your switch and turn on the lights, a wire is responsible for making that happen. Anytime you turn on your TV and watch a movie via your cable service, even your satellite service, even if you are watching it from the internet, all of these are dependent on cables or wires. And a cable is just another name for a wire, a particular configuration of a type of wire. But really what we're talking about is just the strand of metal, in this case, the strand of metal that is used to transmit data or information over great distances. What got me first thinking about wires was a couple weeks ago I saw a picture of the Mars rover and the what's it called, Curiosity rover, and I noticed that a lot of the wires were exposed on this Curiosity rover. That got me thinking, wow, even in an interplanetary mission, a lot of the functionality of that machine is dependent on wires, on small strands of metal used to transmit information. And so this got me thinking as to like, wow, how much stuff really uses wire? How much are we really dependent on the use of wires in all of our technology? And really it's everywhere. Anything that has power, anything that runs power uses wires to some degree in order to transmit that electrical energy to the device, whatever it is. So in your phone, there's wires. In your computer, there's wires. In your screen, in your monitor, there's wires. Anything that uses a PCB board, so any electronic, I wish I had something that I could show you. Any electronic device that uses, that has components that are soldered together on a board, it's called a PCB board. These boards are basically just wires that have been inlaid within the board. So it's just a way to transmit electrical voltage or current or pulse through the material. Now, that's in a small scale, but this is also in a very large scale all over the earth. So, you think about your phone lines, okay? You think about landlines. They're called landlines for a reason. The phone that your receiver is connected via a wire to your, or it used to be, to the actual dial pad, or, and then that's run out of your house via wire to the telephone wires that take it to the stations and whatever, send it out across the world. So you think of landlines operating like that. Well, cell phones actually operate like this as well. Even though it may seem like you are just picking up your phone and talking into it and magically it's just being sent out into the ether and then it travels to somebody else's phone. This is actually still all connected via wires. There are still transmitting stations, receiving stations, and all of these need wires to connect them to each other. And they send your phone signal, your voice, at some point in time through a wire. So every call you make at some point in time during the transmission of that call is going to need to transfer via wire to some other area in order to get your call to your intended destination. So the internet, you think about the internet as well. Okay, so you go on your computer and you log on to the internet and you go on to the World Wide Web. Well, the World Wide Web is actually a web of wires stretched across the entire world, connecting all of the internets across all of the continents, across this globe, across this earth. So it's still all done via wire, all of it. And the transmission of data through these wires is pretty remarkable. And when you think about the capacity of stuff that is transmitted via wire, it's kind of unfathomable. We really don't take into consideration how much of this is happening around us. How much of it is in constant motion. We take it for granted because to us it seems instantaneous, but in actuality, there is processors that is taking all of this data, all of the sound that I'm submitting into this microphone, all of the visual data that is coming through these cameras. It is taking all of that data, converting it into ones and zeros, submitting it via wire to all of these different stations, transmitting stations, receiving stations, converting stations, processors, microprocessors. All of these things are all connected, and this all happens seemingly instantaneously. It's all then reconverted from these ones and zeros into audio, into visual data in nearly real time. Nearly real time. You see some delay, maybe a 2 to 20-second delay in regards to video. In regards to radio, it's like 2 to, or was it 10 to 15 seconds, 10 to 20 seconds. I don't remember exactly, but so there is some delay in the processing capabilities of this, but to us, it's relatively instantaneous. You know, when you turn on your TV, you don't notice any processing lag in the conversion of ones and zeros into audio and visual data that's transmitted via your screen. Yes, my Empress says it's a small world after all. It really is. So when you think about this, you think about all of the internets, all of the computers of the world essentially being connected together. You would think, well, how is this possible? How is there a wire that runs from the United States to Europe to Africa? Yes, there is. There are transatlantic and transpacific wires, cables, that span all of the oceans of the world. Yep. You can actually look this up. There's a map of it, and it looks like this. I'll try to get this to where you don't get much glare. So see, all of these lines represent basically all of the cables that are laid all over the earth, transmitting our internet signals to other internet receivers all over the earth. So let me see if I get, that's me playing games. So see, these are all cables that have been laid by ships and basically just strung over the ocean and allowed to sink down to the bottom, and then they're connected at another receiving station on the other side, and then data is sent physically through these wires all over the earth. So when you send an email from your computer here in the United States to Japan, it's going to travel across the United States and then across these wires, boom, into Japan instantaneously. Or to us, may seem instantaneously. Now, we're going to get into that in just a moment. So basically, there are these wires that are stretched over the entire Earth. So there's basically a web that covers the Earth, connecting all of our computers. It's pretty crazy. Dustin says, big up Dustin, thanks for tuning in. Dustin says, dulling the gray matter of our brains. Yeah, you know, these things do provide a great deal of distraction for us as humans. And if we didn't have all of these grand connections, we might be more connected to our natural surroundings and to our environments. But yeah, it does definitely have some dulling effect, you know, to a certain degree. Yes, my Empress says 25,000 miles is my girth. Yes, and I'm actually just about to talk about that as well. So when you send this email, say you're sending this email from Florida to Japan, and it gets there almost instantaneously, yet it has to travel across the entire span of the United States, and then through all of those cables spanning the Pacific Ocean in order to get to Japan to deliver your email. Again, and still be all in the form of ones and zeros, which are then nearly instantaneously converted into the email content and delivered, and you've got mail. So basically, that all happens at a tremendous rate of speed. The speed at which data is submitted via wire, via copper wire, is 200,000 kilometers per second. And that is about 125,000 miles per second. 125,000 miles per second. So, with the Earth being 25,000 miles in its girth, that's 5 times around the circumference of the Earth, 5 times around the equator. Every second is how fast data is transmitted via wire. So, getting from Florida to Japan really isn't that bad when you think about it. When the speed that it travels is 5 times the circumference of the Earth every second. So this is a tremendous rate of speed. The processing capabilities of these machines that we use are so fast, we don't even comprehend it. We really can't. Yet still, it is not as powerful or as fast as our brains. So, even with all of these wires connecting all of these computers all across the Earth, they are still not as powerful as a single human brain. So, just keep that in mind. So, now what I'm talking about, now that speed, again, 200,000 kilometers per second, pretty fast, right? It's actually only 1/3 the speed of light. Now, what's even more surprising is that for as many copper wires as there are strung across the Earth, there are as many or more fiber optic cables. And fiber optic speed is the speed of light. So data is transmitted via fiber optic cable at essentially the speed of light. So really getting from Florida to Japan isn't that bad at all, even though it's on the other side of the world. So wire is a pretty remarkable thing. And, I was reading into more about how wire is transmitted, how data is transmitted via wire. Excuse me. And it's ultimately, it's all broken down into ones and zeros, into a pulse, into an on and off. And it's in such rapid succession, it happens at such a high frequency, that it seems almost instantaneous. So every picture, again, every audible tone is all converted into ones and zeros and then transmitted via various different capabilities, but ultimately at one point in time through wire in order to get to your device, whatever it is. And so even with radio waves, so I was thinking about this. Well, what did people use before wire? How is data transmitted via satellite? How is data transmitted wirelessly? Wi-Fi. How does Wi-Fi work? All of this still uses pulse, still uses frequency, still uses basically ones and zeros. It ultimately will all break down to the duality of 1 and 0. 0 and 1. On and off. That's it. That's it. Everything breaks down to that. And if you want to think about it, even into the grand scheme of all of our matter, all of this composition that exists around us, all of it breaks down to the atom. And the atom is neutrons, protons, and electrons. Neutral, positive, and negative. Ones and zeros. That's it. That's it. Our entire existence is ones and zeros. Our entire existence is a binary code. We are essentially living in a giant program. All of your computer programs, all of every video game, every design program, the most advanced editing programs that you can think of, every music production piece of gear, every emulated device via software is still still all ones and zeros. That's it. It's all binary. It's all duality. All of it. Every single piece of our existence can be broken down into that 1 and 0 combination and ultimately transmitted via wire. Now, how does this work within humans? I mean, we're biological entities. There's no wire within us, right? Right? Let's think about that again. I have to give credit to cartoons for opening up my eyes to a lot of this information. I've been watching with my son lately this show called Storybots, and they really break it down pretty nice in regards to how a lot of things work and how things function. And they talk about how cell phones work. And this was this really made me realize that even though cell phones seem wireless, seem like they're satellite communication, whatever, it still comes down to wire transfer. It still comes down to the passing of data of ones and zeros via a filament of wire, a filament of metal. Now, so in regards to our human body, this also happens. That's how your eyes work. That's how your ears work. That's how all of the nerve endings on the entire surface of your body operate. Your nerves are basically wires. So, we saw that glimpse of the picture I was talking about before, and I mentioned how your brain is the most powerful computer. This is what is inside your body. Now, this is basically your nervous system. Sorry, I'm trying not to get the glare in here. So this is your nervous system, your brain, and all of your nerves. So when this is expanded, this is what it looks like. These are all wires. These are all of the wires that run through your structure to all of your extremities that submit data that is converted essentially into a 1 or 0, an on or an off, and then submitted to your brain, which processes all of this nearly instantaneously and renders it into your known reality. So you are basically just a walking computer. You are a walking machine, and all of your parts are connected via wire. That's it. You hear people that have pinched nerve or have nerve damage. These are damages to wires. When you pinch a nerve, you prevent it from submitting signal. You prevent it from transmitting data, transmitting information from whatever it's connected to your brain. And when this happens, it causes disruption. Now that's felt by us and rendered in our reality as pain or as blockage or as disease. But these are electrical transmissions. These are electromagnetic frequencies, electrical pulses that are submitted through your body to your brain, which converts those pulses, which converts that electricity into your known reality. So all of the light that you see, all of the colors that you see are frequencies of light, that the frequency is broken down into the wave, the 1 or the 0, how fast it's happening, or how what amplitude it may be happening at. All of that determines the rendering of the color. But it's all still ones and zeros. It's all still pulse. It's all still frequency. So your entire reality that you know of is created by your brain based on the data that it receives from your senses submitted via wires. Your eyes are connected to your brain via your optical nerves. These are wires. Your ears are also connected to your brain via wire. It's just how it works. It's your whole body. Every nerve ending on your body is essentially a sensor that is connected via wire to some other connecting point, transmitted ultimately to your spinal cord up to your brain. That's it. That's it. You're just a complex mechanical organism that's transmitting data constantly in a high rate of speed via wire through your body. So, but, yeah. So, that is the wire is everywhere. It's in all of your electronic devices. It's necessary for any type of wireless communication as well. I've had a lot of people ask me about satellite communication. Oh, what about satellite internet? Oh, Elon Musk is changing all of this with satellite internet. Satellite internet still requires transfer stations. It still requires microprocessing. It still requires the transmission of data via ones and zeros through wire from one point on Earth to another point on Earth. That's just how it works. There's no way around it. So, and satellites use radio waves to transmit this data. So when a radio wave is submitted, so like when a radio station plays a song, and that's sent from their radio tower out to the entire listening area, it's done so via waves, via frequency. So whatever frequency you turn your dial to is the frequency of the wave that's coming into your antenna, which is processed by your radio receiver and converted into audio. So satellites work the same way. Satellites transmit data to giant towers or to receiving satellites using radio waves. And these radio waves and their frequencies and their amplitudes and their modulations, AM and FM, are just different forms of modulation. AM is amplitude modulation, which is how high the wave is, and FM is frequency modulation, which is how close together the wave is. So that's all it is. It's just different forms of modulating a radio wave, but all it is still submitting ones and zeros in different scales, in different paces, in different zones of information. And all of this can be rendered into all of our audible data, all of our visual data, every photo that you know of, every movie, every everything, every song you can think of. All of that can be transmitted via ones and zeros through wire. Now, the storage of data is all the same exact way. So when you think of a flash drive, you think of a hard drive or an external hard drive that you back up your data on. That's all backed up in ones and zeros. It's all broken down into the same binary code, and then it's converted by your machine, by your computer, by your phone, by whatever storage device that's rendering that information into your known reality, into the photos that you look at, the videos that you watch, the songs that you listen to, everything. It's all just ones and zeros that is going to be submitted via wire at some point in time. In some part of the process, wire is going to be responsible for transmitting that data to its ultimate receiving point. So wire is a pretty remarkable thing. I was unaware that wire strung across the ocean floor like this. I wasn't aware of this. I didn't know that it really was a giant web that connected all of these internets together. I just kind of thought, the satellite just transmits this data somehow. But ultimately, it all comes down to having to pass through this wire at some point in time. And the size of the wire doesn't really matter. Like if you think of a copper wire and you think, oh, well, if you're submitting all of this data through it, it must have to be huge. No, the copper wires that are strung across the ocean floor are like the size of human hairs. Like a fiber optic cable, it's most what's the state in which it has its highest capacity to submit data and information is when it's as thin as a human hair. So it has to be thin. Like they really, in regards to metal, in regards to the transmission of data through a metal wire, it really only has to be the diameter of a single atom. That's it. You could just basically string up a bunch of atoms of copper, and that would be all you needed to submit data at 200,000 kilometers per second at any bandwidth. At any bandwidth. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy for humans to comprehend that amount of data and that amount of capacity within something so small, something so minute. But that's exactly how it works. So, pretty crazy stuff. I saw some questions come through. Give thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks to everyone for sharing the video, for inviting your friends. Dustin says, I guess more so digital music is what's dulling the gray matter. LOL. Well, even analog music, even if you were to go and listen to somebody playing a saxophone, the waves that are generated by that saxophone are still taken in by your ears. The pulses of those waves are converted by your eardrum to the bones, to that jelly stuff across all of the little hairs, and depending on the frequency and the rate and the amplitude and the all of those different modulations, that's what renders the audio into your reality. Your brain processing all of that turns it into audio that you then perceive as sound. So even a saxophone is a binary coded instrument. Even vinyl records. If you zoom in on a vinyl record using an electron microscope, you're basically going to see waveforms, the same waveforms that you would see in like digital audio workstations. So when you record your voice into a microphone now in a digital workstation, it creates a waveform, like the shape of that audio wave, that frequency wave. That looks the same as a vinyl record when you zoom in on it. So those little lines on a record are actually super jagged and sharp and pointy and close together and far apart, and that's what determines, or that's what generates the sound. When a needle on a record player goes through those grooves, it's basically just bouncing up and down on the ones and zeros. So when it's up, it's a 1. When it's down, it's a 0. And depending on how, the shape and the frequency and the modulation and amplitude of these waves, that gets converted. The needle is just connected via wire down the arm into the record player, which has a microprocessor in it, which converts that 1 and 0, that the movement of that needle, into an audio wave and submits it out through a speaker via wire. It's all just 1s and 0s. That's converted via magnet, pushed out of the cone in the same shape. The cone of the speaker is only moving in the same shape that the needle is moving in. It's just in a larger version that we can hear. So it's so all of that is still 1s and 0s and wires. My Empress said, mind blown. Whoa. Dustin says, binary, we're the ground. Nervous system equals electrical system to the brain. Yep. Exactly that. Your nervous system is just your body's electrical system. Your nerves are the wires. Your brain is the computer, is the processor, is the printer, the renderer. It's what creates the reality based on all of the data that it receives from all of your senses. So and that's all done electrically. Brittany says, big up Brittany, give thanks for tuning in. Brittany says, what's really cool, Bada, is that the nerves actually look like wire bundles. I was amazed the first time I saw a large severed nerve. The similarities are awe-inspiring. Yeah, nerves are wires. They are strung up wires that are all connected to all of the various endpoints and sensors all throughout your body. So it's pretty crazy how mechanical the human body actually is. Dustin says, I read recently that they had to add a 2 to the binary code because ones and zeros couldn't cut it no more. Our hair and beard are extension of the nervous system that collect subatomic particles. So about adding a 2 to the binary code, that may be true. I'm unaware of that, but that may be again, that may be true. That's still going to be a man-made process that ultimately is still going to break down to the 1 and 0 somehow. The 2 is just probably going to represent another combination of 1 and 0. So even though it may be, but that's all computer code is anyway. All of the standard computer codes, like all of the coding systems that are used, even though they may type out words, like type out commands, type out if this, then this, or because this, or if, when a coder writes out or pulls in chunks of code in order to create a program, that's still, even all of those words, a letter is represented by ones and zeros. The case of that letter is represented by ones and zeros. All punctuation is broken down into ones and zeros. And this is all processed by your microprocessor, by the inside of your computer, by the brain of the computer, and rendered into whatever program. So even though, they may add a 2 to the binary code, it's still going to be broken down into a 1 or a 0 or a combination thereof somehow. It just has to be. That's nature. That's creation. Creation is the duality. We in this third dimension only know the duality. Everything that we know of in our existence, again, is broken down into this 1 or 0. Positive, negative, on, off, male, female, up, down, north, south, left, right. Any of it. All of it. You can break it all down into ones or zeros. So, but yes, our hair and beards are extensions of the nervous system that collect subatomic particles. Your entire body is covered with hair. You may think that you're hairless in some areas of your body. Not me. I don't have many hairless areas of my body. But even what you may think is completely hairless is not. Every pore of your body has a hair. And that hair is a sensor. And that sensor is connected to a nerve. That nerve is a wire. And that wire is going to transmit data ultimately back to your brain. So you're just a giant pack of sensors. All of your hairs are extensions of your nervous system. And the very minute frequencies that they pick up and the very minute changes that they may feel are received by your system. The more sensitive you are, the more you may feel and recognize these things. But it happens to all of us. Most people are desensitized to that type of stuff, though, so you don't really notice those types of minute changes. So parched. Shouts out to my homie Hydroglyphics, official sponsor, Bada Scott. Yes, enough respect to Hydroglyphics. Give thanks every single time. Check them out. Instagram, at Hydroglyphics. And, yeah, go give him a follow. That's my homie. So, yeah. Basically, almost all of our existence, now that you really think about it, is broken down or is dependent on wires. We couldn't even take in all of this reality around us if it wasn't for all of the wires connecting all of our biological systems together. All the technology that we know of physically is all dependent on wires. All of our communication systems, landline, satellite, Wi-Fi, digital, all of it ultimately will still come down to a wire transfer in some degree. All of our everything, again, all of our communication systems, all of our technology, all of our audio systems, all of our visual systems, all of it is dependent on wires. Wires connect everything. It's the giant web that spans the earth. My friend on Instagram sent me a link. I didn't get a chance to watch the video before I did the broadcast, but basically it was in the summary it mentioned how the Hopi tribe of the Hopi indigenous American tribe, they predicted that the end of the fourth world would happen when a giant spider web covered the earth. And right now, there's essentially a giant copper web that spans the entire earth. We didn't even get into the fiber optic wires and cables much today, but fiber optics are in use as well. And fiber optics transfer data at an even faster rate. So there is a giant web that spans the world right now and covers everything. So, what's up, Deanna? Give thanks for tuning in. So yeah, these wires, they're pretty important, and we're pretty dependent on them. Again, not just physically, but also biologically. So, give thanks, enough respect. If there's no more questions, go ahead and wrap it up for today. But I hope everyone is feeling nice. Thank you for tuning in. I feel like there was something else that I needed to mention about wires. But yeah, again, if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions for any future Monday Meditation broadcasts, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for your patience and for coming through on a Tuesday to watch the show as well. You can also watch all past episodes on YouTube, so make sure you go subscribe to the Bada Scott YouTube channel, just youtube.com/BadaScott, and subscribe, hit the notification button, that way you will be notified when the most recent episode is finally uploaded. But yeah, you can go check all the past episodes, at least from 2021, all the past episodes on there. So give thanks for your support. Enough respect to you all, and I'll catch you next Monday. Bless.